Hello, welcome back, Steve's Retirement Corner. Giving notice of your retirement. It ain't as simple as it sounds, man. I guess nothing ever is, I don't reckon. But I got an email. It's probably been about a month ago now, 3-4 weeks at least, from Kelly Enright, I believe. It's kind of unsure of how things actually work, or had questions for me how I went about it, or how other people went about it. They sent an email to Buzz about it too. He made a video about it 2-3 weeks ago, I guess. It's a good video. If you haven't watched it, man, I really recommend you do. But Kelly was had heard of stories of people putting a notice in and then being let go, or either I had a brother-in-law that happened to. Now, he didn't put a notice in to retire, but he put a notice in to quit, give him 2 weeks notice, and they sent him home, let him finish his shift out and sent him home. And that's according to him, Doc. I don't know. He was working at Master Lock up in Milwaukee. And there was 3 sides to every story, so that's just his side. And then Kelly was also heard stories about people being talked into staying longer, And I've heard stories about that. I ain't never known anybody that stayed longer. But there's other things you got to consider too, man. As far as I'd heard before I retired that once you give your notice and people start finding out, their attitude towards it kind of changes a little bit. I never had no problem with that. So, but I mean, I think it's totally a personal decision, man. I mean, you got to follow your regulations of wherever you working at, I guess. But and it depends on the kind of job you got. I mean, if you're somebody important, you got a title, you got a project you're working on, a bunch of contracts you got to write, or some bull like that. It's totally different, man. You got a bunch of people in charge of you. You hold meetings all the time. It's totally different. I was just a warm body, Doc. It don't take, and they got my job filled. It wouldn't have made no difference if I give them 30 seconds or 13 months. It wouldn't have made no difference. And ain't nothing they could have said would have made me stay in there. I don't care how bad they cried. So, I mean, there was no fear of me hanging longer than I wanted to leave. But it's real, I think it's decent to give them somebody at least 2 weeks. If you're working for a mom and pop place and the owners and, it'll hurt them when you leave or something, hey, man, give them a couple of months or whatever. The kind of way I look at it is, hey, man, the company hired me to do a job safe as I could up to their standards, you know what I mean? And, as long as I did that, I got paid. I held up my end, and they held up their end. I don't owe them anything once I decided to retire. But and I thought it was a good question because I hadn't thought about it since I retired. Now, when I was that last year of work, I was up and down with it all year. I originally planned on not giving them any at all, just walking out of the gate and saying, "Hey, man, I'm retired." And then I said, "Nah, I'll give them a couple of weeks." And then I decided, nah, listen, I'll let them know just before, or just after Thanksgiving, once everybody comes back from Thanksgiving break. So that was my plan for a long time. To be honest with you, I hadn't even decided to actually retire. I'd planned on retiring, but I hadn't actually decided to retire until sometime in April, I believe, of 22. And then I said, nah, I'm gone, man. And then you gotta, ultimately I ended up giving them 3 months. That's the reason I'm out here. Well, it ain't the reason I'm out here at the dungeon, but I don't know if anybody remembers or not, but I talked about keeping the calendar from the last year I worked, 2022, and it's what I was using to mark my days down in. 300 days left. I got 250 down here, so forth. I started out with just hundreds, and then I couldn't wait no more, so I put in the 50s too. But I'd marked it down here when I give notice right here on the 28th of October. So, I mean, I retired. My actual last day of work was last day of January of 23. I didn't do no work in January. I think I worked a couple days the first week and 1 or 2 days the last week. I think something like that. I don't know. But so I mean, ultimately ended up being 3 months. I'm sorry. What happened was I got being in a chemical company like that, we had to have a physical before you could retire, or when you retired. You got to check things so you can't come back on them or nothing. You know what I mean? I had to schedule that. Then I had to go down to personnel and schedule, get information from carrying my insurance and getting my pension and all that junk. And it, and then once after I made my decision up in April, come that summer, June, July sometime, and whenever somebody had asked, I had a young boy ask me. Well, he's young. He's in his 30s. I went to school with his dad and his uncle. So one of them was a year older and one of them was a year younger than me. But he was down in our area one time and wanted to know. He asked me, he said, "Man, Steve, how long are you going to give him? How much more longer are you going to get him?" I said, "To the end of the year." Surprised him, caught him by surprise. And then anytime somebody would ask something like that, I'd start telling them. I said, "Man, I'm going to the end of the year." And then, so it started getting out little by little. The boss lady come to me one day, wanted to know, said she'd heard I was retiring. So I said, "Yep." I said, "That's the plan." So, but ultimately, I give them 3 months. I never had no problem with it. I couldn't train anybody. I mean, they're not going to. They couldn't fill my position till I left anyway, so it didn't matter, as far as that goes. And where I worked at, the next guy in line would just move up and they'd fill his slots. What would happen? So, I mean, my spot was filled. And the overtime, hey, man, the guys I worked with, man, I ain't gonna lie to you, they were overtime hogs. So it actually helped them. They'd vacuum up every bit of it they could. So, but I couldn't train nobody, or I didn't have to stay to train anybody. That's what I mean to say. So it really didn't make no difference. And I don't think we had any policy at all. They might for the salary people, but for hourly flunkies like me, man, they didn't have any that I know of. But I did give the boss lady a letter. It was just a simple note, man, just something for him to have on record. Amy, that's the boss lady's name. January 31st would be my last day of employment with Ashland. That's the company I worked for. Used to own Valvoline Oil is an oil company turned specialty chemical company is what it is. I think they're based out of Kentucky, to be honest with you. As of February 1st, I will be retired. And then I dated it and signed it. And that was it. But anyways, man, that's how it went for me. No problems at all. And but I did have a problem deciding when I was going to do it. And ultimately ended up being 3 months. I was going to go at the end of December, but I didn't have to work but a couple days in January. I figured I'd hang in there. Plus, I didn't want to retire at 56. I waited until January to turn 57. I know it's stupid, but it's a hang-up I got. But anyways, y'all take care of yourselves, man. Yeah, enjoy your weekend, and we'll talk with y'all later.